The gentle demeanor of my former husband and the once amicable relationship with my in-laws have undergone a profound shift. Rather than simply attributing it to change, it seems more fitting to acknowledge that their true colors have surfaced. It all unraveled when news of my unexpected inheritance reached them. While I had always understood the potential impact of wealth on behavior, experiencing its effects firsthand was emotionally draining. As if that weren't enough, a cascade of events unfolded, ultimately leading to our divorce. Now, I find myself completely estranged from my former in-laws, though whispers suggest that turmoil still reigns in our household. The passing of my aunt, my mother's sister, a few years ago, added another layer of complexity to my life. From a tender age, she toiled diligently, not only working hard but also investing wisely. Initially, the extent of her wealth didn't concern me much, so I scarcely paid attention when I first heard about it. However, my mother once remarked that my sister seemed to possess considerable assets. Despite this, my aunt remained remarkably frugal, managing her finances with prudence. She exercised restraint, opting to save where possible and allocate her resources judiciously. Her approach to life was reflected in her choices. She preferred preparing her own meals, sourcing ingredients from ordinary supermarkets. Instead of indulging in numerous garments, she favored a select few high-quality pieces, wearing them for years on end. Her values always commanded my admiration and affection. In her era, conventional gender roles dictated that men would labor outside the home while women tended to domestic duties. Yet my aunt defied these norms. With earnings surpassing many men, she encountered disdain, labeled as assertive or even audacious. Unmarried, without children, she charted her own path, unfazed by societal judgment. Considered an anomaly, she remained unperturbed. In fact, she exuded an aura of indifference, adopting an attitude of let them talk, her confidence unshaken. While visiting her one day, as we lounged on the sofa sipping tea, she dropped a bombshell. If I were to pass away, she began, catching me off guard, I'd like you to inherit my estate. Startled by her sudden declaration, I inquired about her meaning. With a calm demeanor, she explained, I'm unmarried, childless. Who else but those who have scorned and underestimated me should inherit my assets? I refuse to let them lay claim to my hard-earned money. I've yet to finalize the paperwork, but I intend to specify you as the sole heir. Her smile belied the seriousness of her words. Upon hearing her wish, I simply nodded, acknowledging that if my aunt desired it, she had every right to arrange her affairs as she saw fit. After all, she was only in her 40s when she broached the subject. The actual day of inheritance seemed distant, perhaps 3 or 4 decades away, a concept difficult to grasp, especially for a high school student like myself who knew little about estates and inheritance. Frankly, I dismissed her words as jest. As years passed, I embarked on marriage and motherhood, consumed by the responsibilities of raising a family and pursuing a career. It was during this busy period that I received word from my mother about my aunt's declining health, coinciding with my younger child's entry into society. Alarmed, I rushed to the hospital where she was reportedly admitted. Upon arrival, I found my aunt looking as spirited as ever. Who told that child I wasn't feeling well? She exclaimed, her trademark smile lighting up her face. That's quite an exaggeration. It's just a routine checkup, nothing to worry about. As you can see, I'm bursting with energy. Her reassuring words eased my anxiety, and I left the hospital reassured that all was well. However, the truth was far grimmer. Her health was rapidly declining, and her brave facade was just that, a facade. The frequent hospital stays were a clear indication of her deteriorating condition. Each visit revealed a stark transformation. Hollowed cheeks, thinning arms and neck, and a noticeable frailty. Yet she never wavered in her cheerful demeanor, a testament to her inner strength. The familiar smile she greeted me with remained unchanged from my childhood days. Despite my hopes for her recovery, she eventually succumbed to her illness. At her funeral, attended only by immediate family, regret washed over me. I wish I had visited more frequently or rearranged schedules to create lasting memories together. But such reflections were futile. Regret only surfaced in the aftermath, too late for amends. Even my children, whom she adored, shared in this remorse, lamenting missed opportunities to converse with her. In the midst of grieving, a peculiar brown envelope arrived at my doorstep one day, embossed with a law firm's name. Its contents puzzled me. I couldn't recall any legal matters involving me. Tentatively, I opened the envelope, revealing a list of documents pertaining to my aunt's estate. It was then that I realized her earlier words were not mere jest. I knew I needed to delve deeper into the details, confirming their authenticity. I reached out to the lawyer's office and requested to speak with him. As it turned out, my aunt and the lawyer shared a long-standing friendship, maintaining communication over the years. Following her passing, they sought my input regarding her estate and inheritance. Upon reviewing the total amount presented by the lawyer, I was utterly astounded. Initially expecting a modest sum, perhaps a few million, the reality surpassed my wildest expectations, over 200 million. Confounded by this revelation, I sought counsel from my mother. After conversing with the lawyer, my mother's response came as a surprise. "Relax," she reassured me. "It appears you made your intentions clear as my sister's hair. She approached me about it shortly after your high school graduation, and I assured her that I supported your decision." Her optimistic tone left me taken aback yet comforted by her unwavering support. I found myself restless, grappling with the weight of such a substantial inheritance. My mother, however, offered a simple solution. "Since your aunt took the trouble to leave you the documents," she remarked casually, "why not accept them with gratitude?" Curious, I inquired if she didn't feel entitled to any part of the inheritance. She shared a cautionary tale from our family's past. "Inheritance often sparks familial strife," she explained. "Many years ago, one of my grandmother's brothers passed away without a will. The ensuing chaos, with siblings and their children embroiled in daily disputes over the estate, left scars. But your sister thoughtfully designated you as the inheritor in her documents, didn't she? It wouldn't be right for me to intervene. However, do tread carefully with your in-laws and husband," she added with a nostalgic sigh, reminiscing about bygone days. Despite her advice, I dismissed any concerns, confident that my husband wouldn't fret over such matters. Little did I know, reality would soon veer in an unexpected direction. A few days later, my ex-husband, his demeanor somewhat unsettled, broached the subject. "Could that document from the lawyer's office be related to the estate?" he queried. Surprised, I pondered how he knew about it. Yet, with nothing to hide, I confessed. His eyes sparked with interest, and he wasted no time in probing about the inheritance's magnitude. A sense of unease settled over me as I observed my husband's smug demeanor. Desperate to shift the conversation, I hastily threw out a figure, estimating the inheritance at around $7 million. Yet, his keen intuition detected the disparity, prompting him to press further, insisting on a thorough investigation. Initially, I brushed off his persistence with indifference, but as his inquiries persisted, annoyance crept in. "I've already told you, it's $7 million, I retorted firmly, exasperated by his insistent probing. His demeanor shifted inexplicably the following day, as he began to ignore me altogether. The sudden coldness caught me off guard. Being treated with such indifference was unfamiliar territory. Both of us, driven by pride, maintained our silence, allowing 2 months to pass in strained silence. During this tense period, my former in-laws, typically meticulous about announcing their visits, arrived unannounced. The unexpected appearance left me apprehensive, wondering if something significant had occurred to prompt their sudden visit. "We've heard about your recent inheritance from your aunt, over $100 million, isn't it?" my ex-father-in-law remarked, with my ex-mother-in-law nodding in agreement, her smile wide. "Our home is showing its age, and we've been contemplating renovations. We're proud of our son for marrying someone as wonderful as you. How about we expand the house and include a room for you as well? It's a golden opportunity, don't you think? Why not consider living together?" Their proposal left me reeling. Not only was I astonished that my ex-husband knew the precise amount of my inheritance, but I was also taken aback by my in-laws' audacity in considering using the money for their own benefit. Excitement bubbled between them as they delved into details, discussing upgrades like an island kitchen and making the house more accessible. Unable to contain my dismay, I interjected, "Please refrain from making decisions without consulting me." Undeterred, they continued, mentioning they had already sought a cost estimate. It was evident they were banking on my inheritance, oblivious to the impropriety of their actions. Feeling overwhelmed by the day's events, I struggled to find the right words. Preferring to avoid an emotional outburst, I simply requested that my in-laws leave for the day. Later that evening, when my husband returned from work, I confronted him. Initially evasive, he eventually confessed to snooping through my belongings, discovering the bank book detailing my inheritance. Its usual place was tucked deep inside my dresser, indicating he had thoroughly searched the room. His invasive behavior left me deeply disappointed. I recounted the day's events with his parents, expecting understanding or remorse. Instead, to my astonishment, he justified his actions. As a couple, our finances are shared, he argued. Your inheritance is as much mine as it is yours. It's only logical to use it for renovating my parents' house. In fact, you're in the wrong for concealing the true amount of the inheritance. Despite my attempts to reason with him, my ex-husband remained steadfast in his belief that my parents' actions were justified, placing the blame squarely on me. His insistence on this single incident was exasperating enough. But what came next left me dumbfounded. In the midst of our conversation, he casually dropped the bombshell that he had quit his job. Caught off guard, I demanded clarification. His response only added to my disbelief. With your newfound wealth, I don't see the need for me to work, he explained nonchalantly. Why subject yourself to the stress and discomfort of a job when we can lead a carefree life, supported by your finances? Renovating my parents' house would elevate your status as their daughter-in-law, bringing only benefits. Why are you so opposed when it's all advantages? His words, delivered with an air of frustration, left me feeling utterly disillusioned. It was clear he was beyond reasoning with. I expressed my willingness to consider the renovation but made it clear that I wouldn't be funding it. This sparked another furious outburst from my ex-husband. The plans are already in motion, he spat angrily. At that point, I ceased to engage, choosing instead to ignore his tirade. The following day, my ex-husband arrived with his parents, asserting that the situation had changed. Changed? You're the one making decisions without consulting me, I retorted, frustration seeping into my voice. Even if I had agreed, why would I be obligated to fund it? This money isn't meant for renovating your parents' house or supporting a son who quit his job without discussion. After all the kindness we've extended to you, and now in light of your newfound wealth, you have the audacity to call me stingy. Disillusioned by their true nature, I declared there was nothing left to discuss and urged them to leave. My ex-husband, sensing the gravity of the situation, panicked. Are you saying we're getting divorced over this? He stammered anxiously. I responded calmly, informing him that we would discuss the matter with a lawyer. With that, I escorted them out and retreated to a business hotel, seeking solace amidst the turmoil. Despite my attempts to sever ties, my ex-husband persisted, bombarding me with messages professing his refusal to accept divorce and insisting he still loved me. I responded with a blunt truth. He likely loved my money, not me, before silencing my phone. The following day, seeking solace and counsel, I turned to my parents, divulging the harrowing events that had unfolded. While they were disappointed, their lack of shock spoke volumes. When the conversation turned to my future, I made it clear that divorce was the only option I entertained. My mother urged me to stand firm, recognizing his reluctance to let go. They also advised me to delve deeper, to uncover any additional wrongdoing. Driven by a need for closure, I engaged a detective agency, uncovering unsettling truths about his nocturnal activities. The discovery, coupled with my personal boundaries, solidified my resolve. Armed with newfound clarity, I sought out a seasoned divorce lawyer, initiating the legal proceedings necessary to untangle myself from my then-husband's grasp. Naturally, my ex-husband didn't take my decision well. It wasn't merely a refusal. He demanded compensation and asset division, insisting, if you want a divorce, pay up. However, when our lawyer clarified that my inheritance didn't qualify as marital assets and thus wasn't subject to division, he vehemently protested, refusing to accept the verdict. When confronted with a hypothetical scenario by the lawyer, if he would share his inherited assets with me, he fell silent, unable to justify his position. Despite the lawyer's efforts to reason with him, my ex-husband remained obstinate. Tears welled in his eyes as he pleaded with me to foot the bill for the renovations. Naturally, I refused, leaving him crestfallen. Later, I learned that he had already completed the renovations, assuming I would foot the bill. To make matters worse, the meticulous renovations far exceeded what I had estimated, astonishingly totaling over 7 million yen. It appears my ex-husband's reluctance to divorce stems from his inability to afford the associated payments. This reinforces my stance that I shouldn't be responsible for funding the renovations of his parents' home, regardless of our marital status. Despite this, he shamelessly attempted to negotiate, proposing that I cover half of the costs. However, his efforts were swiftly thwarted when my lawyer threatened legal action for extortion. Undeterred, my ex-husband's parents took matters into their own hands, appearing unannounced at my family's home. Their unwelcome intrusion escalated into a confrontation, prompting my father to intervene. In their haste to flee, they damaged a potted plant at our entrance, prompting us to involve the police. When the authorities arrived to hear our account, the situation turned violent, resulting in their arrest. Naturally, news of the incident spread throughout the neighborhood, fueling gossip that persisted even after their release. Following these tumultuous events, I shared the details candidly with some of our gossip-prone neighbors, ensuring the audacity of my ex-husband's family became common knowledge throughout the neighborhood. Despite our divorce, my ex-husband persisted in reaching out, professing his love and desire to reconcile. To protect myself, I obtained a restraining order through my lawyer. However, knowing that restraining orders have a limited duration, typically lasting up to 6 months, and considering my ex-husband's disregard for boundaries, I feared potential future retaliation. Consequently, I made the difficult decision to relocate with my parents. Though I grappled with guilt over uprooting them from their familiar surroundings, the safety and security of my family outweighed any other consideration. Given the circumstances and the potential dangers, moving was the only viable option. We made our escape under the cover of night, as if fleeing from imminent danger. Once we settled into our new home, I gathered the children to share the news. Understandably, they were taken aback, but they empathized with my decision, acknowledging, "If that's what you feel is necessary, we support you." Life carried on smoothly thereafter until my worst fears were realized. Despite the restraining order, reports surfaced of my ex-husband lingering around our former family home. A vigilant police officer intervened, questioning him and discovering a small knife concealed in his pocket, leading to his arrest. Upon learning of this alarming incident, the lawyer who had aided me in the divorce revealed that my ex-husband wished to speak with me. The mere thought sent shivers down my spine, prompting me to reflect on the potential danger I had narrowly escaped by relocating. It was a chilling reminder of the importance of taking proactive steps to ensure our safety, even when relying on legal protections. In the end, my ex-husband's release came sooner than expected, as fortunately, no one had been harmed. However, the thought of returning to the site of our former family home filled me with overwhelming fear. For a while, I lost touch with news of my ex's whereabouts. However, a friend residing near his family home kept me informed. According to them, following the completion of the renovation, heated arguments over financial matters erupted almost daily. The echoes of disputes, such as "you took out the loan in your name, so you deal with it," or "this house belongs to our parents, so they should foot the bill," reverberated loudly enough to discern the exact dialogue. Moreover, despite the recent renovations, the unsettling sounds of objects being smashed were all too frequent. On occasion, the police were even summoned to intervene. Amidst the chaos, blame for the divorce was often cast my way or directed at others who had supposedly condoned it. Before the inheritance debacle, our relationship had been relatively amicable, and the bond between my ex-husband and his father had been strong. It's disheartening to witness how money has tainted these once cherished relationships. My mother's words about the transformative power of wealth now ring painfully true. In the midst of the chaos, I overhear my ex-mother-in-law's shrill voice admonishing my ex-husband to find a job already, met with his sharp retort of "shut up." It's evident he's still unemployed, and given his age, prospects for employment seem bleak. With my side of the story out in the open, our messy divorce has become the talk of the neighborhood. People steer clear of my ex's family, fearing they'll be pestered for money. Some even believe that approaching their house could bring bad luck, a notion that I find rather amusing. As for myself, I now reside in a slightly larger rental apartment with my parents. Though they urge me to prioritize my own happiness, thoughts of remarriage hardly cross my mind. I've made peace with the idea of spending the rest of my days alongside them. I harbor a certain apprehension that disclosing my inheritance to a potential partner could lead to a similar transformation as my ex underwent. Furthermore, my lifestyle hasn't changed much. I never indulged in lavish hobbies or extravagant spending. Instead, I intend to utilize my inheritance for the well-being of my parents and myself, whether that means providing for our care in old age or celebrating significant milestones in our family's life. such as weddings or the arrival of grandchildren. The inheritance I received isn't the kind of sum that can be squandered with frivolous spending. It represents the legacy left behind by my esteemed aunt, and I am determined to handle it with the same care and prudence that she demonstrated. Lately, as I've been working part-time, I've also been delving into the world of investments and financial management. It's a complex field that commands respect, and it deepens my admiration for my aunt's astute handling of her finances over the years. While my parents and I lead contented lives, snippets of news occasionally filter through about the precarious situation my ex-husband and his family find themselves in. However, since our divorce, they are now strangers to me. Whatever challenges they may be facing, I hope they find resolution without entangling others in their affairs.